Mr. Speaker, sir, at the very outset, I would like to thank the Honourable Member from Mauhati for having moved this very important motion, which is that this House do now discuss the problem faced by the people in the border dispute. I also would like to thank all the honourable members. I will, in the interest of time, not name everybody, but almost every member has participated. I have noted the different concerns of all the members down, and I would like to thank each one of them for their participation and for their suggestions that they have given. So without going into the official written reply, I will try to address the issues point by point so that we are able to go specifically to the concerns of the different members. But sir, to start off the reply, I would like to give that sense to the House and all the members and the public at large that we all understand that this issue is a very, very complicated issue. It's an issue that has really affected many, many lives, and as rightly mentioned by almost all the members of the House, that people have really suffered at the border areas, especially the disputed areas or the areas of differences. But while keeping this issue in mind and the complexity of the issue in mind, and the fact that for many, many years, different governments have tried to come to some kind of conclusion and some kind of a way forward, I want to reiterate again that as has been in the past and as we had shown our intent in MDA 1 in the last 5 years, so we are very, very determined to move this forward and to be able to come to a conclusion and be able to resolve the disputed areas once and for all. And as mentioned, sir, for that, we all need to work together and take this issue up, and in a positive and constructive manner, we need to resolve these issues. Having said that, sir, I just want to put few things in context so that the general issues that are there and the specific issues that have been raised by the members can be put in the right context. So first and foremost is what we need to understand is that these different areas of differences have been there, and successive governments have maintained one very, very simple rule or simple stand, which is that governments will maintain a status quo. So when we say that governments will maintain a status quo, and this is important, sir, because it's in the context of what we're discussing, it means that as is, where is. That is what status quo means. And therefore, if there are certain areas that are administered by Assam, that administration, that status quo continues. That's what status quo means, literally speaking. When we say that we will not disturb, we may have differences and we may not agree to the fact that Assam, that area is in Assam or is in Meghalaya, and that's why the areas of differences and the discussion is going on. But the fact and the stand that both governments have always agreed on for the last many, many years in successive meetings is the status quo point. And that, as I said, means that though we may not agree to the ownership or the area where does that land fall, the status quo maintains, which means that the different areas which are administered by a specific state will continue. This is very important to understand, sir, and I'll tell you why. So therefore, sir, coming to the incident that happened in Dattalong, as you're aware, sir, that this was an incident where the Ribhoi district, in the Ribhoi district area, sir, there was there's a report, that came out from the Deputy Commissioner to us. And in this report that came out from the Deputy Commissioner from Ribhoi, he mentioned that there was a destruction of a foundation stone erected by the Karbi Anglong Autonomous District Council in Jatalong in Block 2 area. Sir, while we say this, I also would take the opportunity to mention to the honorable member who had raised this, saying that every time Assam, when Meghalaya constructs something, then Assam always intervenes and stops it, whereas when Assam is constructing something, then Meghalaya doesn't do anything. So this is not factually correct. There are many occasions in which many works have been stopped by Meghalaya, by the Deputy Commissioner or by the people, and the complaints have come to me from the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, and we have then amicably resorted the issue out, and that is how things go. So there are many cases where Meghalaya, people of Meghalaya, administration, bloc, sometimes officials, don't allow the works to continue, and this is an issue that keeps going back and forth, some in Assam case and some in Meghalaya case. So another point I would like to mention at this point in time, especially concerning this issue, is that we also need to realize that there is a difference between the administration of Assam government, Meghalaya government and the Karbi Anglong District Council. So there are a lot of things that Karbi Anglong District Council does, but we say government of Assam. These are two different administrations and these are two different autonomous bodies. And hence we need to segregate between that. The reason I'm mentioning that is that while the DGP had mentioned that no case will be filed, and Assam government has clearly said that they will not allow this to happen, the DGP was correct. The Assam government did not do anything to it. In fact, the issue and the concern was raised by the ranger. The FIR was filed by the ranger of the Karbi Anglong Autonomous District Council. So this FIR was not launched by government of Assam, but by the ranger of the Karbi Anglong District Council. And hence, the DGP was correct in saying that the Assam government will not do it. But the Karbi Anglong, of course, Autonomous District Council was not in that scope. And it's, as I said, it's an autonomous administration, an autonomous council, and they had gone ahead with this. Sir, nonetheless, the case moved forward, and obviously there was a warrant of arrest that was raised, and accordingly, sir, after the information and after the intervention, I should say, and the information that was given by the honorable member from Mohati, the Chief Secretary and the Deputy Chief Minister, I was out of station then, had quickly moved into action, and the Chief Secretary had written to the Chief Secretary of Assam requesting that the cases against these 4 individuals may be withdrawn. And based on that, sir, the process and discussions were initiated, and as correctly mentioned by the honorable member, I had also personally spoken to the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, and I had also personally requested him that while these discussions and talks are going on, while we are trying to move forward in trying to find a solution, these kind of incidents only aggravate the situation, and hence, wherever possible, we should try and amicably resolve such issues. And he completely agreed with me, and a very, very positive response was given by him, and he said he will look into the matter, and we are working on this together. And I officially want to put it on record that we have always seen a very positive response from the government of Assam, and especially the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, whenever such issues have come out. And so we also need to realize when we talk at this level, is that there are many levels of administration, many levels of different officers and the public that are involved in such complicated cases. And therefore, even though maybe talks are going on at our level, minor incidents continue to happen. So it's not something that we can 100% avoid, because these are obviously human conflict kind of situations, and hence we need to deal with them very, very carefully. So while we are working on this to resolve this issue at a larger level, and while we're getting the support from Assam government and especially the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, yes, there could be incidents that happen, and whenever such incidents happen, I want to just share with you, Speaker Sir, that we have been able to sit down and resolve and reduce the tension in different areas. And though we are not able to resolve all the problems, but at least we are able to maintain and stop the escalation of the law and order situation and ensure that there is peace in the area. So these kind of talks are continuing, and we will continue to do that. Sir, I will also just mention that, so as I said, we have received a positive response, and though it's a judiciary matter in one way, the Assam government and Honorable Chief Minister of Assam has given a positive response, and we do hope that we will be able to resolve this issue very soon. Sir, while you were talking about this issue, there was also discussion on the tax collection, sir. So here I want to very, very carefully tread this particular issue because it is very, very sensitive in nature. The reason I mentioned this, sir, is precise reason why I had explained earlier also regarding the entire process of status quo which we have maintained, the stand we have maintained, and the difference between Assam administration, Karbi Anglong District Council administration and the Meghalaya administration. We have to keep these two things in mind while I move into the tax collection part. As mentioned, sir, we have decided to maintain status quo. And as I said, when we say status quo, we mean the areas which are administered by whichever administration, that status quo is maintained. We may not agree on which state, on which area, and the dispute and differences will continue. But as is various basis, things will continue. Hence, the areas where these tax collections are taking place are definitely not in the Meghalaya administered area. Because that is something which we have already, in fact, been very, very clear. We have bought broomstick under the agroforestry products, and hence the question of taxation does not arise. And in fact, this decision of the MDA-1 government has helped the farmers to a very large extent. And hence the question of tax collection within the administered area of Meghalaya is not at all allowed. And if there is a case like that, sir, we will immediately take action. The question here is, where is this tax being collected? And I am presuming, I don't know the exact location, is that these are in the administered areas by the Karbi Anglong Autonomous District Council. So wherever the tax collection is taking place, or whenever there is a tax collection that comes towards Meghalaya's border or comes into the administered area of Meghalaya, the report comes to us and immediately we swing into action. And that has happened in the past, and it keeps happening once in a while in Khanduli area and other areas also. And in the last many months also this situation happened, and in fact we reacted immediately and those gates were removed. Hence, the administered area of Karbi Anglong Autonomous District Council is under their autonomy, technically speaking. And whatever taxation policies that the Karbi Anglong Autonomous District Council comes out with officially, those obviously, sir, apply. Now, regarding the illegal connection, if any, which the honorable member is indicating towards, is something, sir, that is not technically in the administrative jurisdiction as of now for us to comment on or for me to react to. But definitely, I could take up the matter with the counterpart of Assam, with my counterpart, the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, who can then further take up the matter with the Karbi Anglong Autonomous District Council. So hence, sir, this is of course an area of concern, and I agree that people are being affected by this. It's not very fair for people to be taxed in this manner. But as I said, sir, within the administrative area of Meghalaya, this is not permissible and this is not happening. It is most probably in the administered area of Karbi Anglong. And if there are such cases, we can take it up with the government of Assam. But for me to officially give any kind of assurance on this matter would not be possible, as I said, because we have maintained the status quo, and as I said, under the administrative jurisdiction of different autonomous councils or different state governments, we will take up the matter with the concerned authorities, sir. Sir, there were many other points that were mentioned. I will try to go step by step. There is an issue, sir, regarding the different developmental projects that were mentioned. Now, sir, let me also clarify to the House that in almost every meeting that has happened whether it is the Chief Minister's level meeting or whether it is at the Chief Secretary's level meeting. In multiple occasions, in different meetings, the concept or the issue of development has always been addressed. And at large, the stand has always been that development works taken up will be done in consultation with the two deputy commissioners. This was in the Chief Secretary's meeting way back in 2012, so on and so forth. So even in the meeting that was held in between the Chief Secretaries in 2019, that projects and schemes being implemented will be shared by the deputy commissioners and accordingly will be allowed to be implemented in a smooth and time-bound manner. Similarly, so in the CM's meetings also, this is the stand that we have taken. And we had discussed with the Assam counterpart that especially when it comes to the central government schemes like the JJM, like PMGSY, that in that sense it is for the benefit of the people. And it's a development project funded by Government of India. There is no reason why any of the states should have any objection or any issue with those particular projects. And hence, in most cases, there is no issue, especially when it comes to centrally sponsored schemes and projects. I'm very much aware of what the Honorable Member from Ramrai had mentioned. He has come and met me a couple of times on this issue. I have taken up the issue. There is some confusion because there was some regional committee that had, the regional committee had brought out some issues regarding the developmental aspect, which created a bit of confusion. We are sorting that matter out. And JJM, but for the knowledge of this House and for the knowledge of all the members, that there is no circumstances under which either of the governments or the administrations will not allow the implementation of centrally sponsored schemes like JJM and PMGSY and other electrification projects. And hence, if there is any issue in any development aspect of that, please do bring it to our notice. As I said, this is a very complex matter. There are different organizations, different officials who sometimes interpret some line in some other way. So those confusions could arise because of the sensitivity of the matter. But then the intention of both the governments is very clear, and there is no question of not allowing development projects to continue. We will continue them, and wherever these problems are there, wherever such issues are there, we will try to resolve them at the earliest. Many have been resolved in the past. We will continue to resolve any such issue that comes up in the future also. Regarding developmental projects in general, like road connectivity and schools and other projects, and also our border development fund that is there, and the schemes that we have put for interstate border development. Yes, sir, we are working on that also, and we need to understand that when it comes to the border area development, it is not just to be measured by the Interstate Border Development Fund. That is just a kind of a gap funding. But the other projects that are there through other line departments, if you look at all of those projects, there is a huge increase in the amount of money that we are spending through the different line departments for development of these areas. So hence, the border areas are, of course, an area which have been neglected and in the past and need a lot of attention. And we are aware of this fact, and we are giving the necessary attention, and we are ensuring that whatever and whichever way possible, we are giving full support to ensure that the developmental activities do not get hampered. One of the members had mentioned, sir, about the fact that in some of the sectors where we came to an understanding, this is a great example, by the way, sir, and I think the honorable members need to also just absorb this particular point that has been mentioned by the honorable member here, that in this Tarabari sector, sir, if you recall, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but about 8 to 9 villages, if I'm not wrong, these were under the administrative control of Assam. And it is after the first phase of MOU that the Tarabari sector, the entire Tarabari sector, all the villages which were under the administrative control of Assam, and though all aspects of education, power, everything was provided by Assam. Once the areas of differences were resolved and a MOU was signed and it was decided based on the people's will that Tarabari sector will come to Meghalaya, immediately the Assam administration withdrew, which means that the discussions and the work has succeeded in one way. We succeeded in moving forward and resolving this long pending issue, and Assam responded back by withdrawing all their administration from this area, which was area of difference, but agreed that it would go into Meghalaya, and accordingly Assam withdrew. So this is a good example and a great example of the fact that we are actually moving forward in resolving the problem. So I think that is the first part which we need to absorb and understand. But coming to the second issue, that teachers are not there in this school, yes, we are aware of it, and these things happen. It's a very swift response from Assam government. We didn't expect this kind of things to happen, but we are very much aware that there was an immediate withdrawal of teachers and other services there, and hence the Deputy Commissioner and the other development, the line departments are working on this, and we will be resolving this issue also very, very soon, and will ensure that all the necessary services, all the necessary infrastructures that are required, we will ensure that these things are taken up swiftly, and I will keep the Honorable Member also informed about those particular issues. Sir, somebody had mentioned about ensuring that we have very clear guidelines on the implementation of development schemes. So the guidelines are, of course, generic in nature, and the generic guideline is that we will allow development to continue. But as we all realize that these are very sensitive areas, sensitive issues, people are sensitive about it, and hence on a case-to-case basis we have to handle this. But more or less at large, almost every DC who is involved in this discussion and involved in the areas of differences are very much aware that the central schemes should not be interfered with, and whichever state is implementing it, that they should be allowed, but necessary information can be sent to the Deputy Commissioner. So those are the broad guidelines with which we are working on this, and we have seen, as I said, in many, many projects. I remember there was one PMGSY road in Langpi area which was of big concern, and after this understanding and after the meetings that took place with the Honorable Chief Minister and myself, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam and myself, we were able to resolve this issue, and the work for that particular PMGSY work, which was held up for a very, very long time, finally started, and I think the work is going on as we speak. And hence, things are moving, but as mentioned, sir, this is a complex situation. We cannot expect that everything will be smooth and good in a short time. Things do take time, but I can say confidently that we are moving in the right direction. I can say confidently that the overall environment is far better than what it was before. I can say confidently that there's a slightly higher level of confidence and a sense of hope among the people that we will actually be able to resolve these issues and we'll be able to come to a conclusion. But as I said, in the process, being a complex problem, we do expect a lot of turbulence, and that is happening. And sometimes we face a lot of problem because of the loss of lives. But I can assure this House and every single member out here that we are very, very much aware and very, very concerned about the challenges that our people are facing at the border area. But these are challenging circumstances also. So while both the challenges of the people and the challenge of the circumstances, we are trying to move forward, keeping both the balance in hand and ensuring that the people are able to live in a peaceful manner. Some of our members, sir, had mentioned about the overall law and order situation and overall security and safety. And absolutely, sir, this is of great concern to us. And that is the reason why, sir, the strengthening of the police force, especially the border outpost, has been done. Many old border outposts, the manpower has been enhanced. And many new border outposts today have been created, many police outposts have been created, and from time to time we are ensuring that whatever support is required in this will be provided by us, and we will ensure that more and more visibility of our police personnel is there to build up the confidence of the people. As you're aware, sir, that in the past few months we have just completed the appointment and recruitment of 900.
Please sit down. I would like to know how much time you will require.
It's another 5 minutes.
Okay. It is now 2 o'clock. In the exercise of Rule 11 of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business, I will now extend the House till for another 30 minutes. You may please go on.
Yes, sir. So we have recruited 996 additional police personnel because precisely for the reason, sir, that these different outposts, different border outposts, though the posts were there, the sanctioned post was there, the recruitment had not been done and therefore they were vacant. And hence now, after this 996 people have been appointed, we are going for a recruitment drive which is going to recruit 3,108 more police personnel. And hence these are already posts which are in existing outposts and existing border outposts. And hence once this process of 3,100 more police force being employed, these will be then deployed, and we should be seeing a much stronger presence of our police force at the grassroots level. You must be also aware, sir, that the state government has gone for a very, very positive step where we have started an engineering wing within the police department. And this may sound very simple, but it actually gives the SP the necessary freedom and flexibility to really invest and work in the different outposts and different police stations and provide the necessary infrastructure without having to go through another engineering wing or going to PWD or to any other agency. And hence, now with this kind of small reforms taking place, we are seeing the overall police force strengthen, and more investment is also being made. So you must be also aware that just recently, the Meghalaya government, in the history of the Meghalaya police, the largest, largest purchase or one-time purchase of vehicles of close to 90 plus Boleros and about 150 bikes was done by the government, and this was done, as I said, precisely to provide to the rural areas so that the movement of the police personnel can be much more flexible at the grassroots level. And hence, sir, there is a lot of effort being done to push the overall strengthening of our police force and to ensure that the visibility of the police force also goes up at the grassroots level. Sir, there were many other smaller issues that were brought out by different members regarding some electrification of villages, regarding some school issues, patrolling of police, financial support to some of the people who had lost their lives, their families who had lost their lives. So all these aspects we have noted down, and we will definitely examine all of these points that have been mentioned by the different members. And once again, sir, to conclude, I would like to assure the honorable members that this is an issue that is very, very important to this government. We have not just talked about it, but in our action also, we have shown our intent to resolving this issue. It is not an easy issue to resolve. So I would like to take this opportunity to definitely thank all the members of the regional committees, the past and the present, sir, because without their efforts at the grassroots level, without their work at the grassroots level, we would not be able to move forward in the way we have been able to do it. So we must appreciate the work that has been done by the different members of the regional committees. I thank them for the work and the service that they have done for the people of the state. And we will work as a government and as a team and as legislatures together to find a solution to move forward in the rest of the 6 locations. They are very, very challenging, sir. But as I said, while we move forward in that, we are always keeping the safety and security of our people in mind. We're keeping the different livelihood aspects in mind. We're keeping the different development issues in mind. And we're trying to ensure that these three areas are not disturbed while we continue our talks to resolve these border issues, sir. They're challenging, but we are giving it our best. As I said, we are in a very, very strong position because we are getting a very, very positive response from our counterparts. We're getting a very positive response from the Honorable Home Minister, Government of India, and the Assam Chief Minister. And therefore, as leaders, we are working together so that we are able to resolve this long pending issue that has been really affecting the people living in the border areas. Therefore, sir, with these few submissions, and once again thanking all the members for raising this issue.